Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Chris Maloney back with you for another edition of CWN Weekly, episode number 12. Today is Friday, November the 6th, and no word of a lie, I was just checking my phone right before I went on the air here. It's 20 degrees here in London, Ontario, Canada. It's you can wear shorts inside and outside at this point. It's absolutely unreal as far as the temperatures go, because the fact is about 4 or 5 days ago, I woke up and it was like basically almost like 3 feet of snow outside. No word of a lie. But anyways, it is kind of weird November weather, but it's not ice yet. So I'll take what I can get. Like I said, it is November the 6th here in London, Ontario, and you are listening or watching live to episode number 12 of CWN Weekly. Thank you very much. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm still new at trying to get people to like and subscribe and this and that, but I guess it's the social media way. Anyways, as you can see, I am rocking the Toronto Raptors hat, and reason for it is this. So yesterday I heard the news had broke that basically December 22nd is what the NBA is looking at to bring the league back. I think it was 72 games, I think they would have announced. So they're setting up to have like a regular season, so to speak, just shortened because of the fact they would have started back in October. But the fact is 72 games for the Raptors, and no words yet from what I've heard as far as whether or not they're going to do bubbles, whether or not the Raptors, the only Canadian team, are going to be able to play down in the U.S. and vice versa. But it is a step in the right direction. The other date that was announced is December 22nd was January 18th. And that is Martin Luther King Jr. Day down there in the States. Either or, I'd love to see NBA back. And I don't think the Raptors did what they could have done, this year in the playoffs. Siakam, that last game, obviously had a bad game. But the fact is, when it comes down to it, I am, heart and soul Raptors fan as far as the NBA goes. And this is a wrestling podcast, MMA podcast as well. So you won't hear me talk a lot about sports, but I was just kind of happy about that because it was good news in the time that anytime you turn on the TV right now, it's basically the election and it's still taking place. Although I did hear that Biden may make an official announcement tonight, so that may see the end of that election down there in the States. But I do have relatives down in the States, friends and family down in the States as well. So it's we've been watching up here. My wife's CNN. I've been watching on NBC News here online, as well as I'll flip the channels every now and then to I think it's Channel 15 here in London, which I think is an NBC affiliate as well. But we've had the election on probably the past couple of days, nonstop almost, to the point I've had to turn it off my wife and say, hey, Christmas movies are on as well. So anyways, that is that, guys. We are doing the show. I am doing the show a little bit different this week. So I am going live, which is great. But I have decided to go just a little bit earlier just to see, whether or not it's better for fans, viewership. When I do the prediction show, so to speak, I always do it about 3 p.m. And right now I'm going 3 p.m. And the thought was to go on Twitch and to go live on Twitch because of the fact, on Twitch, you have to basically go every week. You have to go a certain amount of days. Still getting used to that platform as well. So I was going to go live on Twitch and then upload to do a YouTube premiere Facebook. But I was like, you know what? I'm all set. Why not just try it out? Why not go YouTube, Facebook, as well as Twitch? So right now, live YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, you can see me. Thank you very much if you're tuning in. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. I'll be able to answer them here and live on the air. If you're listening later on, feel free to email the show feedback at cwnonline.ca, and I'll be able to answer your questions for the next show. But like I said, this is episode number 12. As always, we start out with the anniversaries and birthdays for the upcoming week. So November 6th to the 12th, we've got on the 9th, which is only a couple days from now, Le Champion, Chris Jericho, 1970 he was born. You know what that means? The guy turns 50 years old. And I've been watching Jericho way back to his days in WCW. Huge fan of Jericho. I never got to see him in concert yet. Fozzy was here a couple of years ago. As far as the London Music Hall goes, tickets were just a little bit too expensive, so I didn't end up going. But I did meet him way back at a Taco Bell in Hamilton, Ontario, for probably a good maybe 10 seconds. He ended up signing a poster in a magazine for me. But it was back in the WWE days where all of a sudden it was one of those things that get as many fans in and out of the door as possible. But yeah, I get to meet Jericho at Taco Bell. Like I said, huge fan of him. You can see him in the back there, getting the I think the V Trigger by Kenny Omega there on Greg Oliver's book, as well as on the other side to Bret Hart, the Jericho DVD, the triple DVD produced by the WB years ago. But yeah, I'm a Jericho mark, and I'm not afraid to say it. But happy 50th birthday to Jericho on the 9th, which is, what are we looking at? Monday, I think? Yeah, Monday the 9th. So as well on the 10th, Scotty Mack, so independent wrestler out there in British Columbia, Canada, born in 1978, so he turns 42 years old. Scotty Mack's been around for a long time. Heavy part of the independent scene there in the West Coast. I know when I was doing my original website back in like 2001, 2002, I learned about who, Scotty Mack, the name out there. So he's been relevant for the better part of 20 years, so to speak. And finally, on the 12th, he ended up passing away on May the 10th, 1983, at the age of 70. But the one and only Frank Tunney was born on November 12th, 1912. So 12 for 12. But anyways, he is in, and we'll talk about it later on in the show, the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame as far as the honor category goes. But yeah, Frank Tunney's birthday on the 12th, as well as I want to wish my buddy Eric happy birthday on the 12th as well. He will turn not 73, 43 years old, but I've known Eric since about the time I was like 6 years old, I think. And as kids, we were each other's worst enemies. And I've had to tell my wife about the rock fights I used to have with him and the snowball fights I used to have with him. And then sure enough, my first marriage, he was the best man at my wedding. And then his marriage is still ongoing. And congratulations, by the way. I was the best man at his wedding, and I've kept in touch all of these years. So yeah, happy 43rd birthday to my buddy Eric there down in the Maritimes. So anyways, that is it for birthdays and anniversaries. So guys, news of the week is this. So Turning Point taking place on Impact Plus. That was announced on the 30th. So we got this Saturday, which is tomorrow. We got AEW Full Gear 2020. Next Saturday, on November 14th, Turning Point returns on Impact Plus for a must-see exclusive event. Just weeks after one of the most unforgettable Bound for Glory events of all time, which stars and knockouts of Impact Wrestling, will reach their turning point. Already announced for the event, so Rich Swann as new... Swan. I got to learn how to pronounce that properly. Rich Swann defending the Impact Championship against Sami Callihan. And that is the main event at Turning Point. Then we've got the semi-main event at Turning Point. Su Yung defending the Impact Knockouts Championship against Deonna Purrazzo. That is in a no DQ kind of anything goes match. And then also announced the North defending their newly won tag team championships against the Good Brothers. And then we've got Moose taking on Willie Mack. Obviously, Moose is the self-proclaimed TNA heavyweight champion of the world. And then we got Brian Myers taking on, of all people, Hornswoggle. So it'll be interesting itself. But guys, any thoughts on those? Let me know. Feedback at cwnonline.ca, or feel free to comment on the show if you're watching or listening live. So that is Turning Point for what we know for next Saturday there. Next bit of news, The Undertaker rings in Halloween on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. So I think I caught the tail end of this because I'm a huge Jimmy Fallon fan, have been for a while now. And all of a sudden I see The Undertaker. Well, I think I was in the other room. I hear The Undertaker's music. I was like, what the heck? So I go out and I see him, and all of a sudden he's like, doing the whole rest in peace gimmick. He's looking older though, which is a good thing that he hung up the boots, so to speak. But I think he ended up choke slamming or tombstoning a scarecrow or a pumpkin or something like that. But it was great to see. And then obviously Fallon promoting 30 years of Taker. So that was kind of neat as well. Best of the Super Junior 27 members announced. So, excuse me, guys. So if you are a fan of me or a fan of CWNonline.ca, you will know I am a huge New Japan Pro Wrestling fan. So I love the sort of the tournament, so to speak, that New Japan puts out every single year. Now this is one of them. So Best of the Super Junior 27 members announced is a little bit different because there's only 5 per side. So normally you have an A block, B block. Normally you have 20 guys, but this one only has 10. So as opposed to A block, B block, you're going to have one single block itself. And then entries into this tournament itself, which I believe starts on the November 15th, coincides with World Tag League 2020. So I think they're going alternate nights. So it'll be like night 1 will be Best of the Super Juniors. Night 2 will be World Tag League. But anyways, as far as the Best of the Super Juniors go, Taiji Ishimori is number 1 competitor. You've got El Desperado. You've got Yoshinobu Kanemaru. I think he is injured, so he will not be competing in one of those events. And I've got to see if I can find the news, but he is the third competitor announced anyways. Hiromu Takahashi's in there as well. We've got Ryosuke Taguchi. He's in there as well. Master Wado. We've got Sho of Roppongi 3K. We've got Robbie Eagles returning to New Japan Pro Wrestling. We've got Bushi of LIJ. And then we've got Dookie as well. So those are your competitors as far as New Japan Pro Wrestling Best of the Super Juniors 27 goes. So looking forward to that. You will be able to see coverage as well on CWNonline.ca. So if you stayed up to date, I guess, with G1 and Climax, you'll see I had a little subsection there. You were able to see the cards, the results, any articles, the point standings as well. So you'll see the same thing happen for World Tag League as well as Best of the Super Juniors 27. So that is coming up. Something else which was announced, and I didn't even know this existed, was Super Cup 2020 coming to New Japan. So this is part of New Japan of America, by the way. If you go back and look on Wikipedia, for example, you'll see all the history of the Super Junior Cup, the Super J Cup, so to speak. But a lot of big names in this. Now, it is US based. And looking at the schedule in New Japan Pro Wrestling World, it looks like basically they're going to take the spots of New Japan Strong, which has been taking place on the Fridays. So you will be seeing, I think it's going to be 10 p.m. every Friday. You will see, well, actually, and that's if they do it in two parts, but if they do it in one part, you'll be seeing a single show on the Friday. But I can't see them doing it within an hour because you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys involved in this. And the names are El Fantasmo, so ELP out of British Columbia, Canada there. Clark Connors, who was the Lions Break Crown winner for this year. You've got TJP as well. So as well as what they're doing is they're announcing where they're part of. So in El Fantasmo's place, he's listed from the Bullet Club. We've got LA Dojo for Clark Connors. And then all of a sudden you got TJP, which they've announced as freelance, which is kind of interesting because of the fact when you go down and you see one of the names next, they could have announced TJP as Impact Wrestling. And when I say that is because you've got, well, I'll announce the rest of the names. ACH, who they've got announced as freelance as well. Blake Christian, they've got announced for GCW. And then you've got Impact Wrestling star Chris Bay. So they could have done the same thing for TJP, and I'm not sure why they didn't. But maybe it's because TJP has had already the affiliation with New Japan Pro Wrestling of America, and Chris Bay is basically, maybe that was their deal in being able to use Chris Bay for this tournament. But the fact is, yeah, Chris Bay is part of this, TJP is part of this, and then ROH is involved as well. So Ray Horse of ROH, and then we got freelance as well. The one and only Leo Rush is going to take part in this as well. So 8 big names, obviously biased there. I want to see El Fantasma win. And it'll be interesting to see because of the fact is he did win the Super J Cup 2019. Whether or not he can repeat, we'll see. But like I said, a little bit biased because he is Canadian. And this is a Canadian show. So anyways, that starts up. I think the official date was December the 12th. Yeah, December the 12th. And 26-year legacy of this event. So I'm looking forward to it right there. Some tough news to hear about is Kylie Rae announces she's no longer a professional wrestler. And unfortunately, this isn't the first time this has happened. So all of a sudden, a couple of years ago, she had signed a contract with AEW. When you look at her, she looks like a gifted professional athlete, very skilled in the ring, very skilled as far as her personality goes with regards to being able to talk on the mic, interact with fans. But the unfortunate thing is she had a falling out with AEW. I think Tony Khan or Cody had said there's no, tough. I forget what I'm trying to say. There was no kind of bad things between them, so to speak. I know my words could have been a little bit better there, but anyways, she left on okay ground, so to speak. So AEW would have been able to bring her back down the road. But Impact Wrestling, what happens is all of a sudden the night before Bound for Glory, she disappears and people start to wonder and worry about her. And the next thing you know, Bound for Glory takes place and it's Su Yung taking on Deonna Purrazzo, and Su Yung ends up winning the championship. I was thinking Kylie Rae was going to end up winning the title anyways. I'm not sure if I predicted that, but I think, looking back, I'm going to say Kylie Rae would have won the championship. So either way, Deonna Purrazzo would have lost the title that night. But Kylie Rae comes out on, I think it was Patreon, issued a statement says good morning. And this was basically back on November 2nd. Says good morning. I'm truly sorry for the pain I've caused and miscommunication. I am currently unwell. Also, sorry that I wasn't able to get this out before your monthly subscription charge. I want to take the time to say I'm no longer a professional wrestler and currently taking a break from social media. It's been a very hard decision to make, but please understand. When I am well, I will try to fulfill any obligations I've missed. During this time, most tiers will not be able to be fulfilled. Please feel free to unsubscribe from this membership Patreon account. Thank you for your understanding with a heart emoji. So tough to hear because I think she's only late 20s, if I believe, and huge future ahead of her. She is taking a break for personal reasons, which is great. It's wrestling. I know as a whole, you've seen the mental breakdown of some superstars and this and that, and it's a tough business. And she is taking the time for herself, which is absolutely amazing. Hopefully she's able to come back and have the career that she's meant to have. But it's obviously her mental health is a lot more important than the business itself. So a lot of praise, coming out post that as far as Twitter goes, social media goes. The hashtag thank you Kylie had been trending at one point. But like I said, late 20s, I believe, and she's taking a break from wrestling. They've come out and said, the door's open basically for Impact Wrestling for her to come back if she wants to. It's just a matter of whether or not she can, whether or not she's able to. Tough news to hear because she is one of those people I felt was going to be a huge future superstar as far as Impact Wrestling goes. So anyways, we'll have to wait and see on that. From there, we've got two pieces of news as far as MLW goes. So the restart is taking place November the 18th at 7 p.m. We've got two names announced who are coming back for that. One, Davey Boy Smith Jr., obviously the legend of the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, his son there. Davey Boy Smith Jr. has been around all over the place. New Japan Pro Wrestling, Major League Wrestling, WWE, obviously former tag team champion over there. I feel he's never had his due yet. I feel like I feel like I'm still waiting for him to cement his legacy in the business. And I want to see him be able to do that. And there was one point, I think there was a talk at one point of him entering Impact Wrestling, which I would have thought he was amazing to be in part of Impact Wrestling there. But whether or not that ever happens, I don't know. I think he'd be a good fit for it, the same way I think Davey Boy Smith Jr. would be a good fit for ROH. Major League Wrestling is still up and coming, so I know they've been around forever, and you've been able to see MLW The Underground, on DAZN as well as YouTube, as well as BN Sports. But the fact is, when it comes to Davey Boy Smith Jr., I want to see him cement his legacy. He should be fighting for the World Championship, and he should be doing it outside of MLW. That is just my opinion right there. But he is one of the names mentioned for the restart, like I said, November the 18th, as far as MLW goes. The other name mentioned for MLW was TJP, and that was announced today. So TJP taking place MLW as well. He's going to be part of the restart. And again, there's that Impact Wrestling as far as that tie-in goes. So I'm going to say this right now because I'm talking about it, but the fact is, if you were to take ROH, you would take New Japan Pro Wrestling, you would take Impact Wrestling, you would take Major League Wrestling, so MLW, put them all together, let them interact, let them fight between companies, have a Survivor Series even type thing where all of a sudden you got the guys, or War Games even, of guys from MLW taking on guys from Impact, taking on guys from ROH, New Japan. Obviously, New Japan Pro Wrestling, they're doing the Super J Cup, has guys from Impact Wrestling and ROH in there. When I went to a show in Toronto last year, it was an ROH show, but it had stars from New Japan Pro Wrestling as well as CMLL. Fact is, I would love it. If you want to basically fight AEW as well as the WWE, take your groups, take your ROHs and your Impact Wrestlings and make them into something special and put on these super shows, so to speak. Because to me, as a wrestling fan for the past 40 years, I would buy it in a heartbeat. And I just the appeal itself, I think would be absolutely amazing. But anyways, it is what it is. MLW has been hit and miss with me. They've got the talent, but the storylines is I'll have to wait and see when they come back, because they went on hiatus when COVID took place, and they said that basically as a company they didn't want to run empty arena shows. I'm not sure how that has changed, and it's saying that that group of four that I just mentioned, and you put the NWA with that as well. I think it'd be huge. But anyways, enough on that. Vince McMahon Netflix docuseries to be 4 episodes long, so they'll be interesting. It's I don't know. It's hit and miss. It's how do they play Vince McMahon with 4 episodes? It's probably going to be rehashed storylines. Well, not storylines, but rehashed, news that we've seen already that has been presented in WWE documentaries and this and that. But I'm waiting to see if there's going to be any new content that we're unaware about. Speaking of new content, how was that for a segue there? I used to be on this podcast way back about 15 years ago where I used to be called the king of segues because they sucked. But that wasn't too bad there. So AEW Games special event Tuesday, November 10th, 6 p.m. on YouTube. That has been announced. So I'm becoming a gamer again. And a lot of it has to do with the fact it's on. So I've got an iPhone. So, you've got stuff on the iPhone taking place. I got WWE Battlegrounds. I've got old school Xbox 360, PS2 games as well. Obviously, I've got Xbox One games, and then this is being announced at AEW Games special event. So it'll be interesting to see who they used as far as their company goes, as far as producing it goes. I know the Virtual Basement has a wrestling game coming out. There's another one as well, which I can't think of the name of right now. But, the fact is, when you've got wrestling games, especially now during COVID era, it's absolutely amazing. I can't see it being anything before, I'm going to say maybe summer of next year as far as the AEW video game goes. But it'd be interesting, and it'll be interesting to see these guys. And you've seen how well the wrestling figures have come out for AEW. So it'll be interesting to see when the game comes out, what platforms it comes out for. Kenny Omega is a big gamer over there. Aubrey Edwards, the referee, is a big gamer over there as well. And Miro, who they just signed, is a big gamer as well. So a lot of input from probably those guys as far as the content goes, as far as the games go themselves. So I can't see this one sucking. Allison Kay announced that she's a free agent. That happened on the 3rd of November. And obviously she's it didn't last long as her being a free agent goes. AEW's kind of picked her up. So I'll announce that going forward here in the show. Nostalgic beers that grapple for our attention celebrate the golden age of professional wrestling. That was a headline by Slam Wrestling. I was like, what is this about? So we go to the website, and sure enough, they've got beers that they want to produce. Obviously, there's a lot of red tape in between producing a beer in the WB and getting all of the appropriate permissions in this and that. But the fact is, they had beers dedicated to Ravishing Rick Rude, beers dedicated towards the Legion of Doom, beers dedicated towards Nature Boy Ric Flair, and then the Hart Foundation themselves. So the graphics on the cans look kind of cool. I think Ravishing Rick Rude's beer had the highest amount of content as far as alcohol goes, so that was interesting to see. But it'd be interesting to see whether or not they actually are able to come out with real beer as far as this company goes. So you can check out the article on Slam Wrestling or CWNonline.ca for that. WWE 2K Battlegrounds patch notes, October the 30th. So if you have Battlegrounds 2K, WWE 2K Battlegrounds, sorry. Anyways, there was a patch that was released on October 30th. RH recap, Jonathan Gresham puts clamps on Tracy Williams to win the Pure Title Tournament. So that is officially done and over with. So Gresham defeated Tracy Williams by submission to win the championship there. After the match, Jay Lethal came out to congratulate him. And Jay White was on a podcast a couple of weeks ago with, I think, Brian Alvarez from Wrestling Observer, and had announced that they started their new set of tapings. So ROH is not going anywhere. They'll continue with more content, and we'll have to wait and see where the championship goes from there. And in saying that, the women's championship is still vacant, so we'll have to wait and see whether or not they crown a new women's champion going forward anytime in the before the new year, or even announce it again before the end of the new year. I haven't seen anything by ROH with regards to that. Maven returns to WWE, talking Undertaker, Tough Enough, and more. That was on the bump this past Wednesday. I actually ended up watching the interview. It was kind of great. I think it went about 12 to 15 minutes. Maven just talking, with regards to his career. Still looks in good shape. Had said as far as his career now goes, never say never. So it'd be interesting to see if him come back for the Rumble or something like that, whether or not, outside guys are able to come in. But Maven, when you're watching the clips, I forgot how great his drop kicks were. And his feud with the Undertaker and some of the big wins that he had gotten, like he got one over Christian in the clips I think they had shown, another one over Batista in the clips that they had shown. So it brought back a lot from memory lane, but it brought back a lot from when they had the original brand split, which I wasn't too happy with. But anyways, you can check that out. It's on YouTube, so or WWE's The Bump, or if you have the WB Network, of course. This was big news, and this was a long time coming, in the famous words of the Tragically Hip. But the fact is, WWE cancels trademark registration for the Cody Rhodes name. That was on the 4th. The news had come out, and then on the where are we here? The 5th, I think it was. Nope, the 4th as well. So that was the beginning of the day in the 4th. So news come out. I think it was Heel by Nature that had reported it to say that Cody Rhodes, is able to use that name again. Nothing was verified until AEW Dynamite that night, and was not verified on the show. Chris Jericho made a little bit of a slip when he was on commentary. He actually had said Cody Rhodes. And then the show goes off the air, and then Cody basically had gone on the mic, got on a promo, and said basically he's able to go forward using Cody Rhodes again. So he has acknowledged it. The article as well, I think on Wrestling Observer, says Cody Rhodes says he's able to use the full name again. So you can check that out as well. Again, all the articles I'm talking about here, CWNonline.ca. You can check that out over there as well. New Legends and Superstars now available in WWE Battlegrounds. This I was excited about because if you've ever listened to any of the shows I have ever done, you will know I'm a favorite or a fan favorite of some of the guys who face paint, the Japanese guys, this and that. But the announcement was releasing as far as today goes throughout the 18th. So for the next 12 days, you got Batista being released, Ruby Riot. You got Rhea Ripley and Ruby Riot, the double R's. But no, it's Ruby Riot. Being announced as well. Goldberg, Trish Stratus, Lita, the Usos, Booker T, and then my two favorites of this list, you got Eddie Guerrero being released for WWE Battlegrounds 2K, as well as the one and only Ultimate Warrior. I was a huge Ultimate Warrior mark. If you've ever heard Sean Bates, as far as any of the stuff we've ever talked about on any of our shows go, we've talked about basically his love for the Macho Man Randy Savage, but his disdain, so to speak, for Hulk Hogan. I didn't necessarily mind Hulk Hogan. I didn't have disdain for Hulk Hogan. But the fact is, when it comes down to it, I was an Ultimate Warrior fan. So WrestleMania 6, Skydome, Toronto. Yeah, it was all about the Warrior for me. So speaking of Sean Bates, Cody will just be Cody in AEW. He'll use the last name in third-party endeavors. Well, thank you very much, Sean Bates, as I was just talking about you there. And why aren't you at work? It's Friday afternoon. You should be working, dude. But anyways, coincidentally enough, I was just talking about him and comment. But I had kind of spammed his show on, well, I guess, it would have been yesterday. So I guess I'll have to put his comments up as he puts them up. Maybe not as many as he had posted for me, but I don't know. We'll wait and see. Now I'm getting sidetracked, so I'm going to go back on track here. Scorpio Sky was announced for AEW Dynamite to face Shawn Spears. The match got called off based on the fact that Scorpio Sky was in contact with somebody who had COVID and tested positive. He tested negative, but as a precaution, they basically nixed the match, so to speak. And I'm not sure if he's in quarantine at all right now. We'll have to wait and see. He's no part in AEW Full Gear coming up. But it's just whether or not, he continues to test negative. I'm not sure of the testing down there, especially in Florida. NWA Women's Championship match added to the buy-in at Full Gear. So originally it was John Silver taking on Orange Cassidy in the buy-in. Now that's got bumped up to the main card, and you've got basically Allison Kay. Now this is weird because the fact is you've got basically Serena Deeb as champion, facing Allison Kay, who basically just said she was a free agent from the NWA, now fighting for the NWA Women's Championship on the pay-per-view. So be it as it is, but whether or not she's really a free agent, I don't know. Nobody really knows. I haven't seen the working relationship between the NWA and AEW at this point. I guess that's between Billy Corgan and Tony Khan. But anyways, it is what it is. So, that is the buy-in, the pre-show, the NWA World's Women's Championship there between Serena Deeb as well as Allison Kay. Fozzy Across America trailer was released on Chris Jericho's YouTube account. Apparently back a couple of years ago, they had done 3 shows in one day. When Judas was released, as far as the album goes, so they're doing a 30-minute documentary, so that's upcoming, so that'll be exciting to see. WWE Undefeated comes to iOS and Android devices December 3rd. Looks like they're playing on the Battleground as far as the gimmicks of what the wrestlers look like, but that, like I said, that'll be available December 3rd. That was announced 2 days ago. AEW Unrestricted featuring Tony Khan is out now. That was interview yesterday with Tony Schiavone as well as Aubrey Edwards on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast. But it was a good podcast. It's basically Tony Khan just being Tony Khan and prepping and promoing and hyping up AEW Full Gear, of course, and talking about the backstories and the feuds. And his wrestling knowledge is just—it's unparalleled. It's funny. I've talked to my dad, and my dad said, I've got the personality as far as any shows I've done goes, and I can see that where he comes from. But he's also said that Sean Bates, when I've done shows with him, has got that knowledge. So Sean, for whatever reason, can pick things out of the air sometimes. I'm like, where the heck's he getting this from? Or how the heck's he remember that? You know what I mean? But Tony Khan's much the same way as far as his wrestling knowledge goes. And, the AEW brass over there has basically said that about him, that he's not just a fan. He's basically an encyclopedia as far as the wrestling business goes. So that's kind of cool. AEW Matt Jackson working through partially torn MCL as well as slight ACL tear. That was announced yesterday. So he is selling the injury by FTR, of course, but the fact is he is legitimately hurt. To go along with his back problems that he's always had. So it's I'm going to say this, and you can see the Elite. That is a Young Bucks shirt behind me there. Enjoy them while you can, because the fact is, with their style and the fact is they've been around for a while now. Enjoy the tag team as you can, because the fact is I can't see Matt Jackson last another 5 years. Much the same way Shawn Michaels back WrestleMania 14 against Stone Cold. When you saw that match, you knew he was in pain. Look how long it took him to come back. Nobody knew he was coming back. Same thing, Ravishing Rick Rude. The same thing with the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith. Back injuries, back problems, everything else. But it's the wrestling business as a whole. It takes a toll on your body, So fact is, when it comes down to it, enjoy the Young Bucks now, because the fact is, like I said, I can't see Matt Jackson lasting another 5 years in the ring based on the moves that they perform. It's his body's a train wreck right now, and it's unfortunate because it is entertainment, but the fact is he's got a wife and family and everything else, and he's got to take care of himself. Taya Valkyrie on Marion, John Morrison, Impact Wrestling, Lucha Underground, Austin Aries comments. That was released by Chris Van Vliet yesterday on YouTube, so check that out. Something else was released yesterday on I guess it might be on YouTube, but it's on wrestling websites. Cody AEW Media Call, TNT title stipulations, Nick Aldis trilogy is what he talked about there. So you can find that. I think Post Wrestling has it, as well as Slam Wrestling, as well as Wrestling Observer, of course. Something I watched last night. I'm not sure if I really watched it, because it was probably one of the weirdest things I've seen Chris Jericho do. But it was the Winterpeggers, and I think it was episode number, I say 17, 18, or 19. I forget right at the top of my head there. But it was the Idiot Olympics taking place live last night. So it was Dave Spivak, Rybo, and then Chris Jericho doing the Idiot Olympics, and they were doing everything that they could possibly come up with that was absolutely nuts. I mean, I was on YouTube watching this, and they had probably close to 150 viewers watching this the same time I was. So a lot of people making comments and this and that, but they're doing everything from the very last one they had done was they shoved eggs in their mouth, and Chris Jericho didn't have enough because he was in the hotel. And Rybo was just, I think he put one in his mouth and this was that, but Dave had I think 4 in his mouth. And then all of a sudden he had to take off to the side and spit them out in a bucket. They were doing barnyard animals. They were doing the greatest scary face or something like that, and then the greatest scream, and then they had to talk like certain celebrities and this and that. So it was one big train wreck, but I couldn't stop watching, So anyways, props to Jericho for doing the Idiot Olympics last night on YouTube. You can find that on his Chris Jericho account. Hangman versus Omega, straight, no chaser. There's an article on AEW .com right now, so you can check that out. Haven't read it yet. I saw it right before this show, so you can check that out on AEW's official website. Jim Valley update. So I want to read this. So if you've ever heard me talk, and hopefully you have, that's good news for me. The fact is, always been a huge fan of the producers, the promoters, the announcers, the commentators, the journalists, so to speak, in wrestling. I love the wrestling business as a whole, but I've always been a fan of the media guys as well. And Jim Valley is one of those guys who was doing the Wrestling Observer Live, Wrestling Observer Radio. He had done it with regards to doing shows with Brian Alvarez. He had taken over the Saturday morning show. And, he's hugely tight with Fumiya Saito, as well as Dave Meltzer. He has the Pacific Rim Pro Wrestling Podcast, as well as the Portland WrestleCast, I want to say. I haven't listened to that yet, but I was a huge fan of the Pacific Rim Podcast. Well, he gets sick, and he's been in the hospital for quite a bit. And I just saw this update as far as yesterday goes, and he released this on Twitter himself. He goes, an update from the Observer. The hospital has canceled my last 4 dialysis appointments. The port will come out next week. After shutting down a few weeks ago, my kidneys are back functioning normally. I'm so grateful. And he goes, vote Don Owen for Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame. He was to a point that, he wasn't, and his wife as well, wasn't sure if he was going to come out of this. And he kicked out. And not only he kicked out, he hulked up. And last I checked, and I don't know if it's still going, but they had set up a GoFundMe for him. And the last I saw, it was like $55,000 raised for this guy. So, thoughts and prayers and well wishes and hopes and everything else here from Canada, Jim Valley. And I can't wait to hear you back on the airwaves as well. Brian Alvarez had done a little 6-minute clip as far as his website goes. Just hearing Jim Valley talk, and he's sounded bad, like harsh, like he'd been through a fight, obviously. But it is good news to hear about Jim Valley and see him posting on Twitter again. So like I said, thoughts and prayers here from Canada, and a huge fan of yours, and keep it up, because you are on the other side of healing. My cat is meowing. I think he's trying to be part of the show. Excuse me. Tony Khan confirms what match will go on last for Full Gear. That was announced today as well. So it will be the I Quit match between Moxley as well as Eddie Kingston. So that was good news. And then they've got an article on WWE.com. So Undertaker's final farewell set for Survivor Series. So big article there. It looks like the Undertaker might make an appearance on Survivor Series. That is happening November 22nd, 7 p.m. WWE Network. So have to keep and wait and see if the Undertaker actually shows up. I think it'd be a cool moment. I will tell you this. I watched Survivor Series 1987 the past couple nights. That was the one where it was headlined by Hulk Hogan's team against Andre the Giant's team. They had 4 matches in total, okay? They had the women's match. They had basically the IC match. They had the tag team match. And then they had the main event with Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. That to me is Survivor Series as a whole. I think 88 was the same way, and 89 was the same way. They had, and then they started coming up with the names. Like they had the Ultimate Maniacs, I think at one point, and they come up with all these different names for the groups and this and that. And one of the coolest Survivor Series tag teams, as a wrestling fan, as a gimmick fan, so to speak, was when I got to see. It was I think the Legion of Doom, Kerry Von Erich, and then the Ultimate Warrior. And that was one of the best teams I've ever seen as far as being put together goes. And it might have been 90. It might have been the same one as the Undertaker debuted at. But anyways, that to me is Survivor Series. Not all these single matches of Raw versus SmackDown. To me, honestly, as a wrestling fan, that I'll talk about it and report it and stuff like that. But it sucks. That to me is not Survivor Series. It's like having a Royal Rumble and putting 40 guys in the ring. It's like, no, forget about it. It's like having a Royal Rumble and all of a sudden be like, oh yeah, we're going to cut it down to 10 guys because we have to put these matches on and put these guys over, and it's 2020 and things change. It's like, no, certain things in life shouldn't change, okay? Peanut butter cups, for example, chocolate and peanut butter. That's all it takes, okay? That's all it takes to satisfy people sometimes. Like me, for example. So for Survivor Series, take it back to 1987. Take it back to 1988. Team versus team, okay? Groups versus groups. You have enough guys. Like, you could have the whole Hurt Business basically as one team taking on Retribution. And as much as they suck right now, you could still have it. So anyways, guys, in my personal rant, like I said, I the last 2 days, I've watched Survivor Series 1987, watch it in its entirety, and to me, I miss it, okay? I miss it, and the fact is, you had Jesse Bonaventura and Gorilla Monsoon on commentary, you had Craig DeGeorge, Mean Gene Okerlund, And to me, that right there, Survivor Series, and they used to have it on Thanksgiving, and it's like, to me as an American, I'm Canadian obviously, but as an American, it'd be very cool to sit there and to all of a sudden be like, hey, let's have this big turkey dinner with my family, have the extended family go home, and I'm going to put up my feet, grab a beer, grab a cup of tea, whatever the case was back in the 80s, and basically watch Survivor Series. And, and anyways, it's the rebooking of wrestling. I should have a show every week just on that. We got comments coming. So Sean's flooding the comments again. So Sean says, I'm assuming SS is on the exact same day as it was 30 years ago with Taker's debut. So that is cool. SS is kind of, obviously Survivor Series. They also use SummerSlam as well. 1992, 99, and 2002 are the worst Survivor Series no elimination matches. On that note as well, I will say this. I will say, so coming on CWN Online next Friday, so November the 13th, I will do my top 10 Survivor Series of all time. So back in the summer, you'd seen me do SummerSlam, so my top 10 SummerSlams of all time. So you will see me doing top 10 Survivor Series of all time starting November the 13th with number 10 all the way down through number 1, which will coincide with November 22nd. And I've invited Sean Bates to be part of that as well. So, and then last comment he makes is, Fantasy Warfare Tournament Sunday at 3 p.m. Talk the best 5-man teams if all time of all time. I've always been the better speller, even though he's got the better wrestling knowledge. But yeah, guys, Fantasy Warfare Tournament, check that out Sunday at 3 p.m. Should be on YouTube, Twitch, as well as Facebook. But look for all of the Sean's postings there on Facebook, because he's got the Facebook of wrestling. Scumbags of Wrestling Facebook group there over on Facebook. But yeah, guys, check that out. Fantasy Warfare Tournament this coming Sunday, 3 p.m. That might be it for pro wrestling. I think I've got just a few more things. So I had highlights listed here, but I'm kind of running late in the show. So I'm going to skip the highlights, see if there's anything that really stood out. Well, I will say this. I did watch AEW. So 2 things. AEW I did watch on Wednesday. It was good. It was a solid, I'll talk about this because the fact is I will not talk about it tomorrow. So AEW highlights. Jericho calls MJF soft. MJF and Warlord defeat Sammy and Ortiz. Basically, Hardy assaults Sammy after the match, which was kind of cool. To set up their feud coming into Saturday. And then MJF goes and attacks Jericho. And after he attacked Jericho on commentary, Jericho got up with a big smile on his face. So that was good booking there. Miro defeats Trent. Sammy assaults Hardy right before the Young Bucks defeat Private Party. FTR attack Matt Jackson post-match. And then of all people to come down and make the save, it was Hangman. And then Omega comes down. They do kind of a little fist bump. And it's like, wait a second, we're enemies going into Saturdays. So, but it was interesting to see Hangman and Omega kind of on the same page. But it was a drunk Hangman. So, it's he probably wasn't sure where the hell he was at that point. Mox and Kingston's promo was absolutely phenomenal on Wednesday. If you want to see what a promo looks like to sell a pay-per-view, check that out from this past Wednesday. So John Moxley, Eddie Kingston, just the 2 of them, and it was a well thought promo. Props to whoever came up with that, and if they come up with it on the spot, good for them. Pac promo was good as well. The Bastards coming back, basically 7 to 8 months, basically sitting there on the sidelines. This guy's still in terrific shape, but the way the promo was done was absolutely phenomenal. It makes me want to see him back in the ring. And the main event was Cody and the Guns defeating the Dark Order, and then Kobe and Darby. So Cody does a promo as Darby sitting in the stands, much like Sting used to back in the day, to set up that. So huge going into the pay-per-view tomorrow night. And then NXT UK highlights, A-Kid defeats Noam Dar, so he advances to the Heritage Cup tournament final. So it's the only 2 things I'll mention as far as the highlights go. Ratings, Raw was 1.656, 0.48 in the 18 to 49 demo. 9th for the night. AEW took a hit, 717.30 in the 18 to 49 demo. 56th for the night, 73,800 and so 73,800 fans watching in Canada. They're the number 2 sports program for the night here in the country. And the NXT was 610.14 in the 18 to 49 demo, 68th for the night. Now, all of a sudden, I shouldn't say all of a sudden, but the fact is, with all the election coverage and everything else, wrestling was going to take a hit no matter what this week. So that is as that. So we'll expect them to see them rebound, especially with the show next week. As far as AEW Dynamite goes, because it will be the follow-up show to the pay-per-view tomorrow. SmackDown preview tonight: Banks versus Bayley for the title, Otis versus Rollins for the qualifier for Survivor Series, and then Ray versus Corbin for Survivor Series as well. I'm going to say Rollins and Corbin advance. I'm going to say Bayley doesn't get the title. So 205 Live preview, nothing announced yet. Road to Showdown Week 2 for New Japan Strong tonight, 10 p.m. New Japan World. Main event is JR Kratos, Russ Taylor versus Rocky Romero and Jeff Cobb. Romero and Cobb be a unique team. And then MLW Underground preview. So this is all the stuff that used to happen 10 to 15 years ago for MLW. It's called Enter the Sandman tonight. So Jerry Lynn taking on Homicide and the Sandman taking on Simon Diamond. So some old ECW references there. Special edition AEW Dark tonight. Another reason I wanted to do CWN Weekly earlier today, because of the fact is there is some wrestling on TV tonight. So AEW Dark episode number 60 tonight at 7 p.m. It's got Uno and Grayson, who I'm representing in the shirt here. You guys can't see. Taking on Ryzen and Sean Maluda. And then you've got AEW Presents Countdown to Full Gear 2020 taking place tonight here in Canada, 11 o'clock p.m. on TSN2. So they are doing it down there in the States on what is that thing called? Not TBS, the other one, TNT. And then they're doing it TSN2 tonight as well, 11 p.m. New Japan Power Struggle 2020 taking place tomorrow morning at 3 a.m. New Japan World. And then Full Gear. So I'll talk about Full Gear just for a sec. So tomorrow, 3 p.m. live on YouTube, Facebook, as well as Twitch, I will do the AEW Full Gear prediction show. So I'm not going to talk about anything more as far as Full Gear goes, as far as right now goes. But tomorrow I will do 3 p.m. Like I said, AEW Full Gear prediction show. So look for that 3 p.m. tomorrow live. As far as Power Struggle itself goes, I will talk about that just briefly here. And we've got first match of the night, Toru Yano taking on Zack Sabre Jr. That is for the Provisional King of Pro Wrestling 2020 no corner pads match. So that is no actual title belt involved, but just kind of the title itself, so to speak. We've got second match of the night, Never Openweight Championship match. Minoru Suzuki taking on Shingo Takagi. So obviously Suzuki is champion there, his first title defense of that belt. Third match is Kazuchika Okada taking on the Great Okan. Fourth match is the right to challenge contracts. So it's got Kenta putting up his New Japan Pro Wrestling U.S. Heavyweight Championship briefcase against Hiroshi Tanahashi. So that'll be a good match there. Fifth match of the night, same thing. So the contract, the briefcase is on the line. So you get Kota Ibushi, who owns the rights right now from winning at G1 Climax 30, taking on Jay White. And then the final match of the night in the first defense, which is kind of unique, but he ended up winning the title back, so that's why it's only his first defense. But Tetsuya Naito taking on Evil, defending against Evil. So anyways, it's interesting to see where they're going to go with this, because all of a sudden you've got the tournaments that have been lined up, and then obviously Wrestle Kingdom is right around the corner, January 4th and 5th. So guys, that is it, I think, as far as pro wrestling goes. Yes, that is it. MMA briefly here. Bellator 251 took place yesterday, so that was Manhoef taking on Anderson. The results you can find online. One Inside the Matrix 2 took place earlier this morning. You'll be able to see the full show sometime today on CWNonline.ca, but you can also check out YouTube. UFC Fight Night takes place tomorrow night. Santos versus Teixeira. I think it's Teixeira. TSN 5 main card 10 p.m. tomorrow night. Prelim 7 o'clock tomorrow night. Light heavyweight belt features number one contender Thiago Santos taking on Glover Teixeira. And that is free. So if you're not buying the AEW pay-per-view, looking for MMA instead, you can find that on TSN 5 tomorrow night starting at 7 and then main card at 10. So guys, that is it for pro wrestling here. So I'll get rid of the banners here. And I'm going to do as I always do and then take a break, get some water into me. But I'm going to play promos from Sean Bates of the Scumbags of Wrestling and Mr. Ryan Knight of the Knights of the Squared Circle. So, guys, I'll be right back. Sit back and see you in a couple minutes.
Hey, wrestling fans. It's Sean from the Scumbags of Wrestling. Have you checked out our latest t-shirt design? It's inspired by our friends over at London Comic Con. Nigel Lewis of NCL Studios came up with this amazing design of a comic book cover. It features 22 stars of the Ontario independent wrestling scene, including Cody Deaner, Jody Threat, Casey Spinelli, Tyson Dukes, Brent Banks, Tarek, Sebastian Suave, Halal Beefcake, graduates of the Tyson Dukes Wrestle Factory, and many more. You can get your t-shirt for just $30 or buy the poster for $15. Proceeds from this sale are going to go to Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto on behalf of Steven's Wrestling Journey. Steven's an 8-year-old fighting Chiari malformation, and they're searching for a cure. You can contact me either through our Facebook page, Scumbags of Wrestling, or email me at scumbagswrestling@gmail.com. Get yourself a great t-shirt with an amazing design and help a wonderful cause at the same time. So contact me today and get your shirt or poster.
Are you a pro wrestling fan? Do you want the latest info on shows and the stars that appear throughout Ontario? Are you looking for information and insight into the independent wrestling scene? Want interviews and information on the big leagues? Then you want Knights of the Squared Circle with Ryan Knight on Coyote 103. Ryan has his finger on the pulse of wrestling in Ontario on every level, and he brings that to you every Sunday at noon. Listen for your wrestling fix with Ryan Knight and Knights of the Squared Circle, Sunday at noon, only on Coyote 103.
Yeah, some good guys there. So Ryan Knights of the Scumbags, Ryan Knights of the Knights of the Squared Circle, and Sean Bates of the Scumbags of Wrestling. There we go, I got it right. Forgive me, guys. But guys, this is our moment of the show. We talk about hashtag WeAreCIW, simply Canadian Independent Wrestling. So you can see the website down below there, CanadianIndependentWrestling.ca. So that forwards you to the Facebook group that we got going on right now. The push for 400 still on towards the end of the year. Not a lot happening as far as the Canadian independent wrestling scene goes, but doesn't mean it still doesn't exist. So there are shows taking place, just nothing here in Ontario that isn't online. And so when I say that, RCW Friday Night Fights, Calgary, Alberta, November 6th, 13th, 20th, and 27th taking place this month. RCW, Real Canadian Wrestling, by the way, that's what it stands for. Saturday Night Fights taking place Edmonton, Alberta, November 7th and 21st. UCW presents Top of the Class November 28th in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So that was announced just recently there. And guys, that is all I have as far as the independent upcoming shows go. If you have anything on top of that, now there are other shows that are taking place. I know the month of December, I think New School Wrestling, I think I might have missed them as another show coming up online. But guys, any shows that you know of that are taking place, I've missed, upcoming at cwnonline.ca. But if you go to the CWN Facebook page, go to the events, you'll see everything that I've seen listed there. But like I said, upcoming at cwnonline.ca, you'll be able to check that out and email with me with any kind of shows. But that's as far as I know. And like I said, New School Wrestling, I think, is having another one there. They had one, I think, last Sunday as well. And that was online. So I think they're doing the online gimmick again. Stuff that happened this week as far as independent wrestling news goes online. So Zombie Wrestling Marathon by Superkicked was put out there on Halloween on YouTube. This is all YouTube stuff, by the way. No Ring North featured John Tavius versus Mark Shaw. That was on the 1st. Adrenaline episode number 2. 365 Pro Wrestling presented that on the 1st as well. The Alliance Pro Wrestling Network presents an interview with No Class Bobby Bass. That takes me back because I grew up a maritime wrestling fan, so Atlantic Grand Prix Wrestling. And one of those names that I always knew as a kid was No Class Bobby Bass. Leo Burke and the Cuban Assassin and guys like that. But check that out, interview online there. And then also by the Alliance Pro Wrestling Network, so Shooting Up North Indie Edition with Louis Carlin presents Guerrero Saya. That was on YouTube as well. That was presented on the 3rd. And then War Cry by Superkick that was put out there on the 4th. So there's some independent wrestling stuff for you guys right there. As well as CanadianIndependentWrestling.ca is the group, or sorry, the website to go to. Like I said, it will forward you to the Facebook group for the time being here. So from independent wrestling, we go into this. And this is something I am proud of. This is something I have taken on and, talked to my buddy Sean about, who's been part of CWN since its existence on January 18th, 2009. I've talked to Christine as well, who's part of the website as a contributor, with bringing out the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame presented by CWN. So down below there, you guys can see the website, the social media links as well. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to show you guys how easy it is to go, and then basically how to vote as well. So you've seen me talk about this on the last show. I just want to make sure I get the right screen here. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to let's get rid of these two for the time being. And then let's make this. Yeah, that's better there. So guys, you can see on the screen there, and you know what? I'm going to do this as well. I'm going to get rid of the brand. Leave my logo up. I'll get rid of the brand. So guys, right now you're seeing the CWN website. So it's cwnonline.ca. You see the Kenny Omega banner, proudly Canadian there, but you go through and you can see featured pro wrestling, MMA, Canadian independent wrestling, CWN Online, which has anything I do with this show, as well as Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. Upcoming events on the right-hand side, you can see the last show I've done as far as CWN Weekly goes. You can links to Facebook, Canadian Independent Wrestling, subscribe to the website, and recent posts and everything else. So everything is kept current. So you can see one of the last things Canadian Independent Wrestling based was Scumbags of Wrestling podcast. So you can see that down below there. But if you go to the very top, so you got all these different tabs, so to speak. So Indie Pro, MMA, TV, pay-per-view exclusive, CWN Weekly's in there, Fantasy Warfare Tournament, Sharpshooter Podcast, TNT Throwdown, what we used to do beforehand. 29 episodes I think we went to, so you can find that in there as well. About section, so the website itself, myself, Sean, Christine. Merchandise, if you're looking to rock some CWN gear. Patreon, if you're looking to just throw us money. I'd rather you buy the gear than throw us money, but if you throw us money, maybe we'll just buy gear and sponsor it off for the show. But anyways, the very last tab, so to speak, on the website itself is hashtag CPWHOF. You click on that there, and basically that brings you to the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame website. So it is cpwhof.ca. It is a subdomain of CWN. So you can see another address up here. It's cpwhof.cwnonline.ca. So up top, it's very simple. You've got voting, about, staff, contact, a link back to CWNonline.ca, social media links. You've got the big banner there. So if you click on that, it'll take you back to the main page. Upcoming events, obviously the big announcement, the big event on January 18th, which is us doing the show to present and honor those guys who have been voted in, as well as you can see the articles have been posted on the left-hand side. That will grow because it is a new website, and then social media links on the right-hand side as well. Subscribe to the website if you want to. And then basically up top, when you go to 2021 class, what happens is go down the website, and these are the categories there. And I will basically, I think probably sometime this weekend, put up pictures of the nominees. But there are 9 categories in total. So you got legend category, male wrestler category, you've got female wrestler category, tag team category, sharpshooter, siren, MMA, honor, and then category 9 to be announced on Monday, January 18th, 2021. That is a secret. That is not going to be announced until January 18th, 2021, live on the show. We have reached out to the person we want to be part of category number 9. They have accepted. They're happy about it. We're happy to have them be part of the show, as well as be part of the Canadian Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. But like I said, January 18th, 2021. When you go into the categories themselves, so the honor category, dedicated to Canadian journalist, manager, promoter, referee, trainer that excelled in the business. And there's the vote button. It's simple as that. Hit that vote button, you can go to vote for them. MMA, dedicated to Canadian mixed martial artists that excel in the business. Siren, dedicated to a female Canadian independent wrestler with the potential to excel in the business. And then same thing for the sharpshooters, male-based. Tag team, female wrestler, male wrestler, and then legend. Legend's important to me, important to us. So dedicated to a Canadian pro wrestler that competed prior to 1980 and excelled in the business. So we want to have a spot there where basically, you've got your Chris Jerichos, you've got your Bret Harts, you've got your Rowdy Pipers, you've got your Rick Martells. But what about the Stu Harts? What about the Vachons? What about the Killer Kowalskis? What about who am I missing there? Ivan Koloff. What about those guys? So we want a category exclusive to those guys there. So their careers, they made basically the dent in the sport back in the 1980s or before that. So prior to 1980, sorry. So that is the 8 categories we've got there. Like I said, you can vote online. Voting has taken place all the way through midnight on November 1st. It will end 11:59 p.m. on November the 30th. But guys, that is it. That is the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame website. You can also go here. I'm going to bring this up quickly just while I can. So this is our YouTube account here. So only 2 videos right now, but you can see the first 4 categories being announced with music behind it, as well as the final 4 categories being announced with music behind it as well. These are just basically videos to go along with Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. Sean Bates as well has done some amazing videos. I'm just going to stop this here, go back into normal mode. Sean's done some amazing videos as well that you've seen on the Scumbags of Wrestling, which I will incorporate into the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, some of the broadcasts that we do and this and that. But guys, I am excited about it. The Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame presented by CWN. And as you can see, all the social media links down below there. But guys, voting will stop, like I said, November the 30th, 11:59 p.m. And then from there, we'll decide how we're going to make the announcements. So we haven't necessarily talked about it yet. But obviously, some of them were going to be surprises because that's just the way it should be. Obviously, category number 9 will not be announced till the 18th, but we'll decide on that and we'll announce it here on the show, as well as Scumbags of Wrestling podcast, I am assuming here. So 2 more comments here. Sean with 2 more comments, and this kind of makes me laugh because it's true. Votes will be counted quicker than in the U.S. Yes, they will. And I will say this. So there's, I'll say this on the show because it was brought up yesterday on Sean's show, the Scumbags of Wrestling podcast. But one of the things is some of the nominees are still wrestling. So when we went into this, there was a vote beforehand of who to put into the categories between myself and Sean. And then all of a sudden, how the voting is tallied is on the website as well, but it's a 40-30-30 ratio. But when you look at some of these people there, so Trish Stratus, for example, was put into the WWE Hall of Fame, I think 2000, I want to say 11, 12, or 13. I saw her wrestle at SummerSlam against Charlotte Flair last year in Toronto. You know what I mean? Ric Flair, Hall of Fame. Now, I know he's not part of this because he's not Canadian, but Ric Flair, Hall of Fame. Now, all of a sudden, he goes into over to TNA Wrestling. Natalya is one of those people. Angelina Love is one of those people, as part as the categories go. But to me, it's look at Edge, okay? The career that Edge had, Edge gets put in the Hall of Fame, has a career-threatening injury that put him on the shelf for like a good probably 10 years, I think it was. And then all of a sudden he's back and he's obviously sidelined with another injury. But the fact is, in COVID, obviously, but the fact is he came back. So to me, they've made enough of a dent as far as the category that they're involved in. So male wrestler, female wrestler. Look at all the accomplishments that Natalya has made. Look at all the accomplishments that Edge has made. Angelina Love, so to speak. All of these people, you know what I mean? So to me, everything that they've accomplished so far is Hall of Fame category as far as my opinion goes. We might look at doing things differently for next year, but as far as right now goes, it's to me it made sense, and to me it's it's a good thing because the fact is anybody in those categories, besides obviously the Sharpshooter and the Siren because they're independent coming up. Has accomplished quite a bit. Now, obviously, the legend category is going to be a little bit different. The honor category is going to be a little bit different. But go to the men's category right now, and you will see a guy who's Canadian, Kenny Omega, I absolutely love, but he is not part of that category. And the reason for it is because you look at the names in that category. You have Bret Hart, Owen Hart, Roddy Piper, Rick Martel, and I think Chris Jericho. But you look at Chris Jericho still wrestling. Guy turns 50 years old next week, and look at everything he's accomplished in the business. So that was my theory putting into this, and it wasn't just me. It was going alongside Sean and the voting beforehand and everything else. But I will say we might look at doing things differently next year, but for anybody in those categories, the specific 6 categories there, yes, they have accomplished so much in the wrestling business as a whole. So, I'll leave it at that. Last comment by Sean here has been a winner will be announced, and yes, a winner will be announced. Some of the voting is tight. Some of the voting has gone and is absolutely, people run away with it. I think I looked last night. I think somebody was at 58.5%, and I think there was like 60 votes involved or something like that. But it has been interesting, and you will see us promote this for the whole month of November on the shows, on the websites. And like I said, when the winners have been finalized, we'll decide how to announce them from there. But I'm looking forward to it because it's a long time coming. And, CWN will celebrate 13 years, or is it 12 years? 12 years. Is it 12 years or 13? In 2000, I'm trying to do basic mathematics on a live show here. And, I'm already an hour in, so forgive me, guys. But no, 12-year anniversary of CWN next year, January 18th, 2021, you will see the live Hall of Fame show take place. We'll probably do... I'm not sure how we're going to do. It'll be Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. But Sean just said 12. So yeah, thank you very much, Sean Bates of the Scumbags of Wrestling. Damn scumbag over there. Anyways, guys, I think that is it. Yes, that is it. So I'm going to bring back this. So we are watching episodes 12 and 12. There we go. I should just remember the 12 for the whole show. Anyways, so as far as CWN goes, see that I talked too quick here. CWN predicts will take place tomorrow. Like I said, 3 p.m. I am kind of hungry too, so if I'm kind of mixing up my words, that's why. CWN predicts AEW Full Gear 2020 that takes place tomorrow live 3 p.m. Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. You'll see my predictions for the show, do a complete rundown of AEW Full Gear, as well as any kind of personal thoughts that I have. So I'll be live tomorrow, 3 p.m., Facebook, YouTube, as well as Twitch. The recap for AEW Full Gear will take place live tomorrow night, 11 p.m.-ish. And I say that it depends on when the show goes off the air. So I usually go about 15, 20 minutes after the show is ended. So check that out. The prediction show at 3 p.m. tomorrow, the recap show about 11 o'clock tomorrow night after AEW Full Gear 2020 has ended. They'll be live on Facebook, Twitch, as well as YouTube. And then CWN Weekly episode number 13 taking place live on Friday the 13th. And I was like, that is either a really good thing or a really bad thing. But yeah, episode 13 on the 13th, taking place live next Friday. That will be back to 7 o'clock p.m. Facebook, Twitch, as well as YouTube there. So check out the website, cwnonline.ca. As always, guys can hit me back. So feedback at cwnonline.ca. Any questions, comments, thoughts, anything like that. It's been going well. So 12 episodes in, as well as the prediction show and the recap shows and everything else. So it's been great. I've done some fantasy warfare tournaments over there on the Scumbags of Wrestling, so that's been great as well. But guys, check out the Scumbags of Wrestling podcast as well as the fantasy warfare tournament. Sean tends to go either YouTube premiere or live on YouTube, so check that out over there. But you can find the links on the CWN YouTube page. You'll find the links for the Scumbags as well as the fantasy warfare tournament. But I think that is it. So I'm going to get rid of that. Did I get rid of that? Yeah, I did get rid of that. And then get rid of this. And yeah, there we go. There's me at Chris Maloney CWN. So check me out, Instagram as well as Twitter. Give me a follow. Like I said, check out the Canadian Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. So cpwhof.ca. And, it's vote. That's all I can say is vote. It's a voting month. And I can tell you this, I'm going to do it better here in Canada than they can do down in the States right now. Although, as I had said, basically with regards to the vote itself at the beginning of the show, it looks like Biden might be making an announcement later tonight. I haven't seen it. Well, I've been doing the show the past hour, so I don't know if anything more has been announced. But if it has, great, because I've American relatives and friends, so it'd be nice to see it come to an end and then see all the aftermath take place and what's going to happen down there. But guys, that is it for this show. So check me out tomorrow, 3 p.m. live, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube for the prediction show for AEW Full Gear 2020, and the live tomorrow night, 11 o'clock p.m. ish. For the recap show. So until next time or next week, I will see everybody again. Thank you for watching and listening. If you're watching or listening post live show. Thank you very much. Subscribe, like, all that sort of jazz. And guys, that is it. Thank you very much, and have a good week if I don't see you this weekend, and we'll see everybody live for episode number 13 on Friday the 13th. So guys, have a good week, and hopefully see you guys tomorrow for the recap and prediction show.